All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Cool Fred's Beamer Tech. So I got the X5 here in the garage. About to get some things going on it. All right, but what I want to talk about today is parts. Some things for this project I had to get from the dealership, which are these plastic rivets and this fuse. This fuse is actually for the air compressor. 40-amp fuse. We're going to place that in the relay because apparently me or my client didn't have any 40-amp fuses. The generic kits that you get from Amazon and places like that only had goes up to 35 amps. I got a 35-amp fuse in there right now. After we put the air compressor in, I got the 35-amp fuse in there just to get it, pretty much where it's drivable. And it seems to be doing okay in there, but we're going to put the right fuse with the right specification in there. That's in that packet right there. All right, so these parts here from FCP Euro. It's one of my go-to spots for ordering parts, especially for BMW. The reason why, a couple of reasons why. It's one way that I can make things more affordable for the client, and also it's a manufacturer. Basically, it's a manufacturer supplier. So basically, they make parts for BMW and things like that. So I'm gonna lay everything out here on the bench, and then I'm gonna begin talking about our part selection and why we got these parts. And also, I was able to get the oil filter housing gaskets that we're going to be replacing. I was able to get the BMW branded ones, and I'm going to explain the reason why I chose to do that in a second. So I'm going to unload our goodie box here. All right, so that's everything out of our box here. Now, of course, there are lots of choices when it comes to parts that that you can get online. I mean, you can get stuff from thousands of part suppliers, but what you're looking for is you really want to get something from a company that specializes in selling BMW parts and BMW manufactured parts. So pretty much I know everything from this part supplier, FCP Euro. I know pretty much if they sell it, is guaranteed to work on the vehicle. So basically, some of these parts, well, we'll start with this oil filter here per se. And also, for instance, we can talk about this belt. Now, Continental is a tire belt manufacturer, and they've started getting into making some electronic components. I believe they bought out Siemens not too long ago, because Siemens used to make our DMEs, which is the engine computer and things like that, and now they're making some of the parts that used to say Siemens now say Continental. So Continental makes a little bit more than tires, and for a while they've been making our belts. And you can see it says Continental Conitech. So this is basically, and you can see the part number here. Now, a lot of times you get a BMW belt, and it'll have a BMW stamp or sticker on it, and it'll also say Continental on there. So, I mean, this is essentially a manufacturer's part from the part supplier that just doesn't have the BMW stamp, and it doesn't come in the BMW box. All right, the oil filter per se. This oil filter, the oil filter, now this is pretty much the same filter that you would get if you bought the BMW one in the white box. And I got another picture that's going to compare this one against this one. Now, this is a man filter, and that's the part number. Now, a lot of them have a BMW stamp right there. Now, this is the same exact, pretty much the the OEM manufacturer alternative to the BMW part. This side-by-side photo shows the factory versus the man filter. Now, I want to stress, if you're into changing your own oil and things like that, you want to go with this oil filter or another one branded uh, from another manufacturer. Like there's another manufacturer that makes them for the V8s. I can't pronounce the name, but it starts with it. X, I believe, or H. They make them for the N62s and the N63s. And they also make a one for the 6-cylinder that looks similar to this. But some of the cheap plastic ones you get from the auto parts store, they come with cheap O-rings and things like that. Like this green O-ring here. Now, for this N55 engine, if you don't put the proper one in there, if this O-ring splits, you can have oil pressure problems, and that will cause issues with your variable valve timing. So you always want to make sure that you go with a good oil filter part to keep your check engine light off and things like that. All right, another thing we got, let's see, we got oil filter housing gaskets. Now, I went with the BMW branded gaskets basically because I remember back in the day on the warranty, we would replace a lot of these oil filter housing gaskets. But over the years, BMW basically improved the rubber material of the gasket so they last longer. So I like rolling with these because I know that they're gonna last long. And this is the updated material, so they're gonna last a lot of miles and a lot of years without having to replace those again. Now another thing I got right here, this oil pressure switch. A lot of times these oil pressure switches leak internally through the sensor pins and things like that. And this one looks pretty close to the factory one. This is my first time using this brand, Facet. And of course we got intake manifold gaskets because we got to pull the intake back to replace that gasket. So we talked about the belt. Now this coolant hose, this is the upper radiator hose. And during the repair, I'm gonna explain why I chose to go with that. We got this fuse, we got plastic rivet for the fender trim. In the previous video, I talked about why the check engine light was on. And this right here is gonna fix our check engine light. This is the DMTO pump. It's made by Bosch. I'm not sure the one that's in there, the manufacturer brand. I'm not sure if it's Vallejo or if I'm not sure if it's going to be a Bosch or what. But I'll check it and see pretty much what that brand is. But it's pretty much what it looks like. Again, this is a manufacturer's brand part. This one was a fraction of the price. This one was a little less than $70 versus $200 for the BMW brand. Now that's just me looking on LCP Euro. Sometimes your prices can vary at the dealership. You know, a BMW part at the dealership, I don't know, it may be $250 or whatever. Okay. Another thing we're gonna do while we're in there, we're gonna replace the belt tensioner. This is the INA. I believe it's, what size is this? Schaeffler Group. They make a lot of belt tensioners and belt components and pulleys for a lot of manufacturers, including BMW. I've pulled a lot of belt tensioners and pulleys out, and I've seen the INA stamp basically on there. So this is the belt tensioner we're going to be using. I'm hoping they gave me the right tensioner for this thing. I have to look in there and see, make sure that's right. If not, we may have an issue because I did order this under a belt kit. So I'm gonna check that out, make sure it matches up. But some of the N55s, This is like an N52 style belt tensioner here. So I'm gonna check that out in a second. Sometimes on these engines they do depend on, because this is an X5 E70 platform, so sometimes they may use like the N55 is very similar to the N52 and the N54. I know definitely the N54 uses a different belt tension setup. But this right here is one of the, I'm not sure if it's the idler or the deflection pulley, but there's like two pulleys that are in place. And pretty much the point, the point we're going with the belt. This is another one. I believe this is the pulley that sits way at the bottom because it has this little plate right here. So there's an idler and a deflection pulleys, or some people would call them two deflection pulleys. Basically, the point of replacing everything, like your belt tensioner and all your pulleys, is just, you know, this vehicle got 119,000 miles on it. And the main thing is you just want to, these pulleys, these bearings in here, where they make noise, they squeak. The belt tensioner over time, they start making noise and things of that nature. And also the spring tension gets weak. So replacing all these components at one time, basically, number one, it just increases the lifespan of the engine. Because I mean, especially if you're doing a lot of highway driving, you know, you're going down the road doing, you know, 5,000-6,000 RPM, cruising around 3,500 to 4,000 RPM or whatever, and you know, you sling a belt comes off because of defective tension, or you got a pulley. I've seen pulleys like this lock up and things like that, and next thing you know, the car is broke down. In a lot of cases, the belt will wrap around the crank pulley and cause further damage. So that's pretty much all I got today, folks. This is pretty much just talking about some of the parts that we're going to be installing here. I'm about to get in here and double check this part number to make sure that's compatible with our N55, this 2013 model. Everything else looks correct, but I got to check that. All right, stay tuned for the next video where we're going to dive into replacing that DMTL pump and get that check engine light off. Until next time. I seem to have got to the bottom of my my parts issue here. Went back and looked through all my parts and compared the part numbers, and looks like they just they pretty much pulled and sent me the wrong part. So maybe they were in a hurry or a rush while packing up everything. I got the wrong belt tensioner, because everything else is correct. And pretty much what I normally do is I check by the VIN number and I go from there. I got my wife's computer here. All right, guys, we're back. I did mention earlier in the week, it was actually a couple days ago, while checking the parts, I found that we had the incorrect belt tensioner. Instead of having a tensioner for the N55, we had an N52 belt tensioner. So yeah, I double checked all my part numbers because I ordered a kit which came with the belt, the deflection pulley, and the idler pulley. So I found out that the part that I ordered didn't match the part number on the box. So I called up FCP Euro the next morning. I believe I spoke with a guy named Brandon, pretty cool guy. He got everything squared away for me. Basically, I gave him the numbers that were on that box of the incorrect one, and you know, he verified it was the wrong one. And I did have to take a couple of pictures of the box, but it took them maybe less than a couple hours to get it sorted out. And once they did, they actually overnighted me one. So basically, it was Wednesday morning when I called them. They overnighted me one, and it came in Thursday. And they also gave me a return label to send the other one back. So that was I mean, it's my first time having a experience of getting the wrong part from those guys, but they took care of it in a timely manner. So